Alrighty guys, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to yet another GR Corolla video. If you guys didn't watch our last video, you would have seen that we blew up the engine on our 2023 GR Corolla, but the videos do not end there because we have my mom's 2023 GR Corolla that we now are going to be modifying in the meantime while our motor gets fixed. Mom's GR Corolla is up on the lift because today we are going to be installing what is called the fix for the rear diff overheating issue in the GR Corollas. A company called IRC reached out to us. They said, we think that we have a fix for you guys. And a lot of you know we test these cars harder than basically anybody else on the internet. So if there was anybody that was right for the job in testing any drivetrain component at all, it's probably us. So these guys have been working. We already have the rear diff pulled out of my mom's car, and we have the rear diff pulled out of our other GR Corolla. So without further ado, let's get right into the video. So to start it off, we have the stock rear diff sitting here on the table from the GR Corolla. This is actually the one out of our race car, or let's say, you know, the big turbo 450 horsepower. We made a video a while back about installing a Cusco limited slip differential in this one. So rather than pulling apart the really nice stock OEM one that my mom has, what we're gonna do is just we're gonna continue to abuse the race car one.
So the way the rear diff works in a Corolla and how they're able to send 70% power to the rear is that the gear in the stock housing is actually a taller ratio than the front housing. So when this clutch locks up, when the computer tells it to lock up, it's trying to spin the rear wheels faster than the front wheels. And that's how they get that torque bias. Well, the problem comes in that the wheels are the same size. So it's trying to spin the rear wheels faster than the front wheels. If you're on pavement, it's never gonna do that, but it's always trying to apply a little bit of torque to assist you through, you know, some oversteer in the corners and whatnot. That's why it overheats. It's always trying to apply some torque and it's slipping. And anytime you have that friction slipping, it generates heat. Well, enter this ring and pinion. It's the same gear ratio as the front of the gearbox. Now this wouldn't be so important if we were able to decouple the front axles. If we were able to lessen the torque going to the front, that's just not how this transmission works. The front axles are full-time, full power. So anything sent back to the transfer case is actually decoupled with this, and that's why you're able to run front-wheel drive by putting on the handbrake and going on the dyno.
This part right here from kind of this seal forward, this is what they call electromagnetic multi-plate clutch. So there's 12 clutch plates in here that have a DLC coating on them, which stands for diamond-like coating. You know, really strong clutches that also happen to overheat really easily. The fluid that goes in the rear differential is shared with the fluid that's in here. There is a tiny little fluid passage kind of down here on the left that then shares fluid back and forth. So the basics of what we're trying to do here is make, you know, the ability to do donuts, the ability to race time attack, the ability to do some autocross, and have the rear diff not overheat. Our actual kind of technical goal would be get it all installed and then use the Cyvex center diff controller to then modify how the center diff locks up. Because what my thought is if we can keep all the heat out of the rear diff, right? Because there's no slipping happening anymore, because it's all time 50-50, what we can do is take the Cyvex all-wheel drive controller and we can tune it to then lock up really aggressively. So when we want to oversteer, when we want to do donuts, when we want to have fun with the car, it does it a lot more consistently and a lot longer without it overheating and without having all these issues.
I mean, there's some testing that we need to do to see if it's going to cause adverse effects, like we don't get the same oversteer effect anymore. But that's why we're doing this. I want to clarify too, we're not saying that the other products they don't help. I'm sure that they help. Our case is a little more extreme than some of the other people.
One thing that we also are going to test is whether you need an all-wheel drive controller or not. So we're going to install it. We're going to get it all ready, good to go in this differential. We're going to put it in the car, and then we're going to run the car with the stock all-wheel drive controller, and the car has a minor tune on it with ECU Tech, but other than that, you know, there's no anything changes other than just putting the ring and pinion in. So without further ado, we are gonna start pulling this differential apart, and we're gonna start kind of getting into the installation of that ring and pinion. Alrighty, so it's been a couple days. Me and Billy were off racing at one of our rallies. Didn't end the greatest, but at least Dave was here and made some good progress on the Corolla. You kind of want to walk us through kind of the process of taking it apart, putting it back together, and what that kind of entailed?
Yeah, this is all rear diff parts. So these are the old parts that we replaced. And what we needed to do when we installed this, there's actually a series of shims, right? And this is one of them. And that sits under that bearing, gets stacked on here, right? Crush collar goes on the other bearing, you tighten this down, and it squishes it. And this shim controls how far into the diff this pinion hangs. And that's important because we can't move this ring gear, it's stationary. We use that shim to set how far that's in. And then we actually have shims to set this depth too, because this is stationary. We can't move this laterally. We can move this laterally. So we spent a lot of time playing around with shims.
There was a lot of guess and check and making sure that the specs and everything were good for the lash, the shimming left to right, the shimming back and forth, the preload on the diff and everything. Dave just put this together like an hour ago. We're waiting for the orange stuff, the orange goop, to dry a little bit. And then we are going to start throwing this in the car to hopefully be able to drive it by the end of the day. We've got everything all plumbed up. Brakes are on, axles are in, the rear diff is in. We got this AMSOIL Severe Gear 7590. You got a fill port right up here. I don't know if you guys can see that. It's up here on the side, right in front of the driver's side axle. Original OG MBRP exhaust off of the original GR Corolla. The MBRP exhaust on this car sounds so good though, dude. It might be a little bit loud. It might annoy my mom a little bit, but it sounds so freaking good on this car. If you guys don't know, you guys can go on mbrp.com, use our code NEMTECH, or use the link down in the description. If you guys want to buy an MBRP exhaust for your GR Corolla or your truck, snowmobile, side-by-side, anything you could imagine, go check it out. A little bit of oil residue in the in the exhaust tip from the other motor. Just a little update on the motor and stuff for the other car. I'm talking to Charles from Lambspeed and stuff. We're putting together a built motor. We're figuring out all the parts and all the specs for it and everything. One thing that he added, I told him about this rear diff stuff that we were doing, and he's actually going to send us a rear diff cover. So he makes ones with a little bit more capacity in it to try to also combat the overheating issue. So hopefully with this ring and pinion, the expanded capacity with Lambspeed's rear diff cover, we should be right on the money in terms of fixing the old overheating rear diff issue. Alrighty guys, welcome to the little review of the rear diff overheating issue, a ring and pinion install. It's a little bit difficult to kind of give you guys my opinion because me doing donuts in the parking lot or me, racing around corners isn't going to really give you guys the full story on kind of, what this actually fixes. So I thought I'd do it kind of this way. So to start it off, I wanted to talk about a couple different things. First off, I wanted to talk about the fact that I have driven this car almost 150 miles since we installed the new ring and pinion in the rear diff, and I have had absolutely no issues with it. It seems to be working perfectly fine with the stock diff controller. I have not gotten the check engine light. Everything seems to be normal. I will say that there is a little bit of a change in the stock center diff controller though. So because you have your 60/40, your 30/70, and then your track mode, those are the three options that the GR Corolla gives you from factory for your center diff. with this, because we're changing the ratio of the gearing, it's actually going to change how those modes act. So the 60-40 now is more of like a 90-10 or an 80-20, so it's mainly front wheel drive bias. The 30-70, which is what I've found myself driving around in a lot, is going to be the most rear biased, of course, but it does feel a little bit more like 50-50. The car feels very planted, very linear, and not have the odulation of front and rear and kind of the sloppiness of the stock center diff. This one gave me a lot more confidence to kind of push it through the corners a little bit, and a lot more consistent grip. The track mode, honestly, I didn't really feel that much of a difference. The 30-70 mode to me was by far the best. The track mode just kind of, honestly, I didn't really feel a difference. We haven't tried the Cyvex all-wheel drive controller yet. I think we're gonna hold off on that until a later video, because there will be a lot of kind of back and forth and testing and R&D work that we're gonna have to do to kind of give a real solid opinion on the Cyvex all-wheel drive controller mating up with this. So the cost of this ring and pinion setup is actually going to be right around $2,100 US. You have to convert it over from euros, so depending on the exchange rate, you know, it's going to be a little bit less, a little bit more. I think shipping isn't included in that, so that's cool. 2,100 bucks. And then I also gave a little bit of an estimate. I put the estimated labor in between $600 and $1,000 for labor. There is a little bit of time taking the rear diff out. It does also take quite a bit of labor to get the preload and all the shimming and stuff on the diff set up and correct. But I would say you could get into this setup for around 3,000 bucks. And then of course the Cyvex all-wheel drive controllers and stuff, those cost another maybe 500 to 1,000 bucks depending on which company you go with. You guys know I am looking to build the greatest Gymkhana grid, time attack, just the all around GR Corolla. That's what our goal is. I can already tell you guys that this is definitely worth the money if you're going to be pushing the car. I have not been able to overheat the rear diff at all, and I've done multiple donuts. I've pushed the car a bunch for about 20 minutes driving around our parking lot, and I gotta tell you, like, I haven't overheated the rear diff. And in our other stock car, when that thing was stock turbo and stock power, I could overheat the rear diff like in less than 5 minutes. So I'd say that this definitely is a very, very big improvement. I'm looking forward to getting the Lamb Speed expanded capacity rear diff cover, just so we have that little bit more fluid in there, just so we can add a little bit more cooling to the rear diff. If you guys are interested in this product at all, I will have everything that I can find linked down in the description. You guys can also reach out to me on Instagram or YouTube or Facebook. I've been worrying about the overheating rear diff issue for a really long time, because our end goal with this car is to be a very, very competitive time attack car, as well as stage rally car and go rally racing with it. So this is a huge step forward. Once the sequential, the built motor, we have the new rear diff. Once we have all this stuff dialed, our GR Corolla is going to be an absolute machine, and it is all because of you guys. I appreciate you guys' support on every video. If you guys like this video, go down below, hit the like button. It really, really helps us out. If you guys have any questions, feel free, leave them down in the comments. As always, we'd love to talk to you guys. With that, this video is officially over. We will see you guys in the next one. Peace! One thing I did want to add real quick, if you guys have ever tried to do donuts in your GR Corolla before, you would realize that like you could do like 1 or 1.5 kind of donuts, and then the car would kind of do a little shimmy and straighten, or like it would grip, or you would lose power, or it would cut power on you. One thing that this helped do was actually now the car can just sit there and spin. It's wild. We got to end off the video by doing some donuts and showing you guys. So without further ado, for the people who stuck around all the way to the end of the video, let's see some donuts.